This is a story of a church that became a charity shop because I can't stick to a plan. As you can see, I'm on a lot called the Church of Handbag Mints. It's gonna be a church for my old ladies. They're of the religion of handbag mints, which is very important, obviously. But instead of building a church, I built this shell. It's it's gonna be a high street. I built the wall for the church, and then my brain said, you know what this church needs next to it? It needs a shoddy little high street with all sorts of random little shops. And I was inspired a bit because I've just moved from the city centre to a small town, and the high streets are very different between city centres and small towns. In the city, you have like all of the brands that you know, like clothes, all of the cafes, etc., etc. And then you come out of the city to the high street, and all of a sudden, all, all of the shops change, and they're very random, and they're all built into these like renovated terrace houses that would have once been houses, and they still have apartments above them, but the bottoms have been renovated and they've been turned into all sorts of little random independent shops, which old ladies especially really love these little independent shops. But they all have names that they follow this like rule of naming. It's very funny when you're driving through and you see all the names of these shops. The rule seems to be that you have whatever it sells as the first word. So like tiles, tea, lawn mowers is one near me. And then the second word either has to be world, land, or planet. So you go along and there's like tile world, lawnmower planet. And no joke, there is a shop near me. It sells wheelchairs and mobility scooters and various things like that. And it's called Able World. I see the necessity for shops like that, but I feel like that name is a little bit on the nose. Perhaps a little bit. But I wanted to build some of these shops, so I'm going to do 5. And the first one on the left-hand side is going to be a charity shop. The one after that is, we won't talk about that one yet. Then we're going to have a tea shop, a haberdasheries like wool and sewing shop, and then a cake shop cafe at the end. Well, I guess you would call that like a patisserie, ou la patisserie. But the thing about these builds is that because they're renovated, they're all quite different. This is a very British aesthetic, where it's these terraces and over time they've had roof replacements, they've had different windows put in, each shop owner has changed the front to look a different way, so it's a bit of a mishmash. It's kind of chaos, but it's chaos in a very specific niche looking way that's very British small town high street. So this is what I'm trying to do right now, and giving them all different shop fronts that equally clash, but not to the point where it's horrible to look at, and also sort of has an overall vibe to it as well. I don't know how to describe the specific look that I'm going for. I just know when it's right and I know when it's wrong. And at the end I think it turns out okay. But yeah, old ladies specifically seem to really like independent shops. I guess it's from the time they grew up in. I remember when I would stay with my nana, the shopping experience would always be very different compared to when I went to the shops with my mum. With my mum, I'd go to just a supermarket and we'd get everything and then we'd be done and go back home. But if I was staying with my nana, which I would occasionally do, I used to have sleepovers at my nana's because I used to really love my nana. And me and my cousin would go and sleep over, and then she'd take us out to some shops, do some errands, and we wouldn't go to a supermarket, we would go to the high street, and she knew every single shop. Like, she got all of these individual little things from each shop. She knew where things were the cheapest. She loved a charity shop, which is what I'm going to build today. It's going to be this blue one at the end. And yeah, it was a very different experience. It was nice. It's kind of humble. The old ladies love to support old businesses because they're better than us. So I'm just finishing off the charity shop here. This is the shop we're not going to talk about. I kind of trolled with this shop. I had to curse the build in some way. You'll find out eventually what that one's going to be, but I'm not going to talk about it. So I have also added some other things to this lot. You can see there's a very British phone box, which I thought was necessary. People don't really use those anymore, but there's still some, you still see some that are kind of there as relics of when people used to use phone boxes. And I'm placing some windows at the back. For the people in the apartments, I don't actually decorate the apartments. You know, maybe at some point I can do, but this is just about the shops. And I'm just finishing off with some different shutters. So I thought the charity shop would probably have some shutters. And I've laid out here all of the sort of bits of junk, and charity shops are filled with very random things. It's always an experience because you never know what you're going to get. And obviously the stock is just whatever people decide that they're going to donate. So I filled it with all sorts of different things. A load of snow globes. You know, if you needed some snow globes, then you'd have a great day out at this charity shop. So the inside, there's some stuff on the walls too, just some random bits and pieces. Everything sort of clashes. That's typically what a charity shop looks like. You know, they're not about aesthetic. They're about getting things sold cheap and then, you know, giving the money to charity. And I quite enjoy a charity shop. I never used to, but I quite enjoy it now because you never know what you're going to find. So I thought, you know, because these are renovated old builds, someone would have been living here at some point. So I've kept the fireplace shell sort of in there because I figured in a charity shop, they're not about making the interior this like fancy, you know, vibe that's meant to cause you to want to buy all sorts of things. And they're not putting lights on everything to, you know, subconsciously make you think, oh wow, I need this product. They've just turned inside into something that's functional for them to sell the things that they've donated as cheaply as possible, because they're not, you know, they're non-profit. So anything that they're going to sell is going to go to charity. They're not going to waste money on making the inside look all, you know, funky fresh. There's sort of two types of charity shops. There's this general type, and then there's also furniture charity shops. And the big one in the UK is the British Heart Foundation. So I thought there's some furniture that I'm going to put outside, but I thought this would maybe be like the partner non-furniture charity shop. So clothes are a very popular item in charity shops. My nana would always be rolling up in like a new cardigan, and she'd do a little pose, and you're like, oh, here we go. I meant to ask about the cardigan. Like, oh, Nana, where did you get that cardigan? Oh, charity shop. It only cost me like however much. And you will see, if you go past the charity shop in the UK, you will see a lot of like older ladies just perusing all of the donated clothes, which is quite cute. But they obviously, you know, they're just put on there in all sorts of random little orders of color, and there's not a whole lot of theme going on. But you're like, they don't care. They just want to sell the clothes. And the racks I did different too, because I figured, you know, this isn't a shop that's gonna care about having all racks that are the same theme. They're just there to sell things that are donated. So maybe they got these racks donated as well. And here I'm putting some shutters. These are actually CC shutters that I thought would work really well over this archway. So when they close the shop up at night or whatever, they can just slide those shutters in the middle, or it looked like something that a charity shop, you know, it wouldn't be too expensive to have this installed, and it adds a little bit of deco. I put these cute little rucksacks down there too, next to the suitcases. But I love the mishmash in charity shops where you have these, you know, one style of suitcase, and then next to it there's this cute little owl bag. Because in the shop they're just like, well, bags, we'll just put the bags together in the little bag corner. I have some frames on a shelf over there too, and those are CC too. I think the game needs to add a few more frame options. There's wall options, but frames and mirrors especially too that you can put on a surface were a little bit limited. So I do enjoy using CC for those objects. Here I'm just cluttering up with all sorts of random things. I pretty much got everything out. I don't add a whole lot more other than what you've already seen outside. And this is just about arranging it in a way that really sort of captures that charity shop chaotic, there's some form of organization there, and you can see that someone has decided that, you know, this needs to go here for a reason, like the baskets need to go next to these clothes for a reason, but you aren't entirely sure what the reason was, and maybe the reason was just that that was where some space was. I thought it was cute if they would use little fireplaces as a display shelf as well. I'm going to put these shelves here and sort of extend it a little bit to make a little shelf corner that includes the fireplace. So I liked this item because it's already like completed clutter, and I thought it made a really cute sort of view from the front window. Because again, with the charity shop, they're not going to make all of these displays at the front that you can see through the window. It's more of a, you know, when you know it's a charity shop, you know what to expect. When you go in a charity shop, they're not trying to sell you things through the window. The law is that, you know, it's going to be cheap and you're supporting a good cause by buying something from there. But I thought that item looked pretty good through the window. There's some, you know, an obligatory I got it out in the end. Box of, you know, random old children's toys. My mum was always sending children's toys to the charity shop. She'd do it while we were at school, because she was just savage that way. We'd come home from school and she'd be there with a gleeful smile, waiting for us to discover that we were short some toys, and then she'd happily declare that they'd gone to the charity shop. Some old tins. I imagine, you know, maybe one of the old ladies who shops here also would donate a few things, and those are the kind of things I could imagine an older lady donating, some old used tins. And then we had these picture frames, but I thought these looked a bit too stylish for for a charity shop. So I just randomized them a bit with some are brown, and then one's a sort of grotesque yellow it's probably not going to sell very quickly. And then some alright picture frames, because, you know, sometimes you do find some alright things in charity shops. Some clashing pans. We could not have them matching. That would not be very charity shop. And then I placed this table. I thought it looked charity shop, but I do swap it out because it's a bit too much. This is what I mean about the vibe. It's a very specific vibe, and you can't just put any random thing in there and it looked correct. This didn't look right. It looks like a random wizard's table in the middle of a charity shop, so I swapped that out for something a bit more plain. A plastic table, that, you know, a foldable one. Because again, and if you go in a charity shop and you see these sort of cheap tables, like, no one's complaining because you know what to expect. This rug my nana had, one of these rugs, I could imagine that some old ladies had some rugs like that they would definitely donate. And obviously a cat, what is that? A cat bed? I'm not sure, I've never had a cat because my mum's allergic. I've only had dogs. But some cat bed, and then I thought it needed some boxes. Some random boxes are filled with, maybe they're filled with things that people have donated that haven't found a home yet. Plant pots, but they don't match, obviously. And then here next to the cat bed, I required something, and I just thought, you know what would be hilarious if next to the cat thing we just have children's things. As if the shop hasn't really differentiated between children and pets. Some more shelving. I wanted to clutter this up. It needed to be packed. Because that's charity shop. It's chaos. The people who work there understand the chaos, but when you walk in as a customer, you really just got no clue. It's a real experience walking around to find out what's where. And so these are some more CC. Those are the CC mirrors I spoke about. I do use some other mirrors, but, you know, as you can see, it's difficult to find one that's going to line up with what you want. It's a shame you can't move them up and down. I guess they're locked that way because, you know, the Sims have an animation for using the mirror, and they're not going to look up and down depending on where you put the mirror. But it would be nice to have more options for mirrors. And then I made this little section that would, you know, maybe be a little discount section on the tills. Where maybe something's been in there and not found a home for a really long time, and they just want to get rid of it. It needs to go. So some wall art, I thought those, you know, someone's probably donated some pictures that were on their children's wall, and they've outgrown them. They've donated them to the charity shop. and some random other pictures and paintings that have been donated. My parents currently have some pictures and paintings that I think they're going to donate to a charity shop, so it is the kind of thing that people do donate. And it needed that sad clown. That was necessary. And I placed it specifically so that it's just peeping over the counter, so when you walk in you just have this sad clown spying on you. And here I wanted to make some rugs cluttered on the floor. And I did this for a really long time, just having a complete brain fart, because there's already some rugs that look like stacked rugs. There they are. Yeah. Why I didn't use those to begin with, I have no idea. And to finish it off, I just put some little signs on the wall, which are sometimes in charity shops, and you know, they say like, thank you for supporting a good cause, or whatever it's for. A few clocks. We're gonna move outside, and that's where I'm going to place a bit of furniture that potentially hasn't made its way towards the furniture shop yet. But there's also a bit of an outside display to show people, you know. This cheap furniture in shops, there's often some on the actual high street too. So I wanted to pick things that, you know, that aren't the best furniture, because typically they wouldn't get really good things donated. But I did get my sofa from the British Heart Foundation in the UK. They have the furniture store, and there's some really nice things in there as well. So it's not all, you know, really cheap furniture. There's some good things in there that people will have paid a pretty good price for when they got it new. And again, this is about making an arrangement that doesn't match, but also doesn't clash. And I don't know how to describe it. It's a very specific look of this like outside furniture set up on the high street. And then I floated a table, because any excuse to use the tool mod. And a little bit of wall, you know, wear and tear, because they wouldn't mind that much in a charity shop. You know, the point isn't to look great, it's just to, you know, support charity. To finish off, we had a light, and then we checked the whole thing out at night time. I think it looks pretty good. And there we go. Charity shop that was meant to be a church, but had a complete plot twist. But yeah, thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.